back now on Fox Weather. I'm meteorologist Mike Lestame, continuing to track the impacts of Tropical Storm Hilary as it continues to race up not only the California coast, and what's so interesting is that out ahead of Hilary, it is a front-loaded storm. There are all kinds of showers and thunderstorms that we're tracking. This stretches way into Nevada, and what you'll notice here is like right behind Hilary, it cuts off pretty quickly. So once that center of circulation passes, you may see a couple of residual showers, and then things really begin to wind down quick. But it is out ahead of Hilary where we're literally tracking over 1,650 miles worth of rain. All of that rain, again, is pushing up toward the north at about 25 miles per hour. Tropical Storm Hilary, as of the 2 o'clock advisory, still has winds of 65 miles per hour. And again, the good news is that the storm is weakening. However, we say weakening, but it doesn't mean that the threat doesn't still continue. And when we talk about threats, we're talking mainly about a big flash flooding concern. In fact, evacuation orders have been put into place for parts of San Bernardino County, California. And again, it is going to be that heavy rain, that onslaught of heavy rain in parts of SoCal and Southern California that is going to be most concerning. That is leading to several different flash flood warnings. That flash flood warning does include parts of Los Angeles, California, this of course being our second largest city in the United States, where an additional 1 to 3 inches of rain is possible. Now, Doppler radar just indicating that perhaps a half an inch to an inch of rain has already fallen. But again, this is going to be an area where we'll have to watch very carefully, and I expect to see more green boxes or more flash flood warnings to be issued through the afternoon, through the evening, and through parts of the overnight, especially where you start seeing, like right here, just east of San Diego County, in the I think that's Imperial County and toward the Imperial Valley, where we're seeing, again, those shades of yellow, the oranges, and especially those reds that indicate torrential heavy rain is falling. The good news is that Baja California, at this point, that's going to be this region right here, is basically in the clear. You'll notice a couple of little bands still kind of forming just east of the channel. Otherwise, the big picture, as we mentioned before, showing you that the entire rain shield itself is incredible. This is over 1,650 miles when you look at tip to tip from where that rain is and then where it is in terms of its northern extent, stretching all the way into parts of the Dakotas and even northern parts of Minnesota. Just a massive scale in terms of its system. Now, let's focus in briefly on where the tropical storm wind field is. You can see it right here, and these are winds that are going to be basically around 40 miles per hour, if not a little greater at times. That 40 mile per hour wind, again, is going to run into the San Diego mountains, and keep in mind that there's going to be a squeeze play between the mountains, the wind, the rain, and all of that rain is going to get wrung out like a wet washcloth on the windward side of the mountains, and that's really going to set the stage for not only the downed trees and power lines concern, but again, all of that soil that's going to get soaking wet could slip and slide. That's what leads to the landslides, the rock slides, the mudslides that we're all too familiar with in parts of SoCal. And interestingly enough, believe it or not, for the first time in history, the National Weather Service has issued tropical storm warnings for parts of LA and San Diego. To put this into perspective for you, you think about places like New York City, you just don't prepare for tropical storms. It's not something that you're familiar with. It's the same sort of deal along the southwest coast of the United States. They don't prepare for these type of things. It's not like it's Miami, Florida, so this is a really rare event to see happen. That flash flood concern is going to be really greatest on the windward sides of the mountain as Hilary's influences are seen as it kind of spins up and runs all that moisture into the mountains. One other area that I want to focus in on, and notice that Las Vegas, Nevada is not out of the woods when it comes to that potential for flash flooding concerns. We have a team of meteorologists and a team of correspondents, including Fox Weather's very own Max Gordon, live for us in Las Vegas, Nevada. And right now, kind of the calm before everything really gets going. Max, give us an update on what things look like where you're at. All right, that was Fox Weather's Max Gordon. We're having a couple of audio issues. We'll get that fixed in just a moment. But here's the thing, though. Even in Vegas, as we just got done mentioning, there is an extreme chance for some significant rain that, again, could lead to flash flooding concerns. So where you have those concrete washes that flow kind of close and in and around, maybe not the Las Vegas Strip, right? You're not going to see the washes and you're not going to see the stormwater channels directly there. But in the suburbs of Vegas is where, again, what we're anticipating on seeing are those heavy rain amounts. And you can see that toward Mount Charleston. That's about 3 to 5 inches of rain through Tuesday. All of that rain runs down the mountains over roadways like State Highway 95, State Highway 93, and again, it all funnels into those little channels that we were talking about, and it's those channels where we could be addressing some big-time flooding as that kind of works its way out to sea. But it's going to be the concrete washes and those stormwater channels that really the local National Weather Service offices are saying could be dangerous, if not deadly, at times. So again, it is going to be a rain threat, especially for those of you that live in the shadow of a few of those mountains, the San Gabriel Mountains, the San Diego Mountains. If you live on the windward side, that's where the flood threat's going to be. And then, of course, we have that high wind threat that we need to address, bearing in mind that along those mountains where that wind gets channeled, and you can see that perfectly right here, that channeling effect taking place, where basically what ends up happening is you have the mountains, and then you have those winds that come in between the mountains. It's kind of like whistling. And that's going to be where those winds start to race through those mountains. And unfortunately, that wind on top of super saturated soil could easily bring down not only the trees and power lines, but also could lead to the rock slides, the landslides, and the mudslides. So let's watch for that, especially this afternoon and this evening, just east of San Diego. By the time we get to, say, Vegas, this is going to be around the 11 o'clock time local, so this is Pacific time. Notice those winds in Vegas at times gusting upwards of, and you see that little orange area right here that we're highlighting, that is indicative of 50 to 60 mile per hour winds possible. Could we see Vegas, right, known for all of its lights, could we see power outages in Vegas because of those winds overnight tonight into early tomorrow? Absolutely. That is on the table. That is a threat that we could see. We'll watch that very carefully. Thank goodness for our friends in San Diego. By the time we get to around midnight, overnight tonight, and then into the wee early morning hours of tomorrow, most of that wind should begin to die on down for not only San Diego, but also toward the San Diego mountains. Look at what we're anticipating. Those high wind warnings in effect through Monday. We're talking gusts upwards of 70 miles per hour. Earlier this morning on Fox Weather, we were actually speaking with a meteorologist out of San Diego, Adam Roser. Adam was sharing with us that we've already seen winds over 70 miles per hour. Places like Joshua Tree National Park, we could be talking about 80 mile per hour winds your way. That was what the National Weather Service was sharing with us yesterday. So again, a wind event as well, but I think that the big take home here is going to be all that rain, and just look at the breadth, the depth, the size, the scale of all this from San Diego up I-5 as you head toward Las Vegas, and then of course Bakersfield, Fresno, even Reno, Nevada getting in on this action. And this is going to stretch as far north as parts of the Pacific Northwest. Again, a huge, huge chunk of real estate being affected by Hilary. Note that loose center of circulation by around 8 o'clock this evening. The heavy rain, this is going to be toward the Sierra Nevada mountains. Keep in mind that the Sierra Nevadas were heavily impacted by almost 12 atmospheric rivers. That was earlier this year. And then, of course, we had the tremendous amount of snow. It was record-setting snow that we saw in parts of the Sierra Nevadas. And now what we're talking about is Hilary that's going to add in even more moisture toward the mountain range. So, again, this is going to be complicating those flood concerns. Vegas, it's still raining by early tomorrow morning. As you're up and out the door on the Strip, maybe you were thinking of heading out to Vegas and enjoying the last few weeks of summer, right? By some of those pools, you're going to be dealing with the rain, compliments of Hilary, and unfortunately, depending on where you're traveling, a few of those roadways could be washed out, so you'll just need to make sure that you're exercising extreme caution to come. We have millions of Americans that are still in that cone and in that path that the National Hurricane Center put out. And again, it does include not only San Diego, but just east of LA and then up toward Bishop and eventually working into parts of Nevada. And look at the rain. Again, this is what I think is going to be the take home from Hilary. In the weeks to come, what are we going to be talking about? What are we going to be reflecting on? I think it's going to be the amount of rain that we've picked up in places like the mountainous regions just outside of Los Angeles, the San Gabriel Mountains, the San Bernardinos, even toward the LA mountains. I think this is going to be the big take-home message. So for you right now, it's a call to action. Do you have a safety plan in place in the event of flooding in parts of in parts of SoCal? Do you have that flooding preparations in place and ready and set to go in parts of southern Nevada? Vegas, we're talking to you. Western parts of Arizona, we're talking to you. Even being influenced here, western Utah as well. Hilary really being guided to the north by that dip in the jet stream, also being aided by that tremendous area of high pressure. It circulates in a clockwise fashion. And again, it just is allowing for Hilary to basically, it's like a freeway, if you will, of just moisture right off not only the Pacific, but again, the channels in between toward Baja California. And so this is going to be an ongoing issue through the afternoon, the evening, the overnight. I even think that by tomorrow morning to start off the work week, especially in parts of Nevada and then eventually even into Idaho, we could be talking about Hilary's influences providing, say, Pendleton with upwards of 2 to 3 inches of rain. That'll take us through Wednesday. Look at Cabo San Lucas, beautiful vacation destination. Not so much right now, right? You can see it right there, the arches of Cabo San Lucas being swallowed up by the waves and, of course, all of that rain. Stick with us right here on Fox Weather for continuing coverage as Tropical Storm Hilary makes its impacts felt.
Electrolyte, instant hydration.
The best thing is that I never really have to be the same, but I'm always me.
Welcome on the air here on Fox Weather. We are continuing to track Hilary. It has been a deadly storm. Unfortunately, one death being indicated in Baja California, where a family of 5 was swept into the sea while crossing a stream. The significance of Hilary is certainly going to be felt not only in parts of Mexico, but also in the United States as it continues its trek northbound. Look at what we saw in Palms, California. The lightning was staggering to say the very least. And of course, when you have that type of, it almost looks like monsoonal moisture, if you will, along with Hilary and the moisture content provided by Hilary. Again, it was just a sight to behold. And unfortunately, I think that we're going to see a lot more sights and sounds from Hilary in the hours to come, and especially over the next 24 to 36 hours as it continues its trek inward. I'm Michael Estime, and again, we are just learning as well that Hilary, we have over 27 million Americans that are under those flood threats due to Hilary and the impacts that we'll see. So a quick focus in, here's generally speaking where the center of circulation is, and notice those winds are winding in a counterclockwise fashion around Hilary. It is running into the mountain chain, as you know, and that mountain chain being the San Diego Mountains. We also have the San Bernardino Mountains that we'll have to watch out for. Friends and family need to watch, especially toward the washes and some of those what we call dry gullies. Those are going to get filled with water. And unfortunately, because of all of the rain that we're expecting to get squeezed out of the atmosphere, that flood risk is going to be very real, very present, and a danger to most that are in and around those gullies. So please make sure that you're staying well away from those. Let's talk about how the geography of Southern California plays into the not only amount of rain that we pick up, but the amount of wind that we see. That rain is going to be forced up along some of those mountains, especially east of San Diego, and that's going to create what we call orographic lift. And as moisture is lifted up the mountains, it is then going to condense and it's going to get squeezed out like a wet washcloth over these areas, again, east of the mountains. So Death Valley, I-15, parts of I-40, parts of I-10, a very heavily traveled interstate leading from basically LA to Phoenix, right? Huge population centers, and even the Imperial Valley down around San Diego and east of San Diego City proper, we have that extreme flash flood threat. That's something that you don't see every day. The National Weather Service doesn't just nilly-willy, and the Hydrometeorological Prediction Center doesn't just nilly-willy throw out extreme flash flood threats. Most of the deaths that we see occur on average per year occur when we have extreme flash flood threats like what we have through early tomorrow morning. That is why it is so imperative that if you have a river, creek, or stream that's next to your apartment, that's next to your home, that you are keeping an eagle's eye on that river, creek, stream, or perhaps even that drainage ditch, the concrete washes, the storm water channels. Even if you've never seen those overflow before, this is a situation just east of LA toward the San Bernardino Mountains, as we mentioned before, in the San Gabriel Mountains, where if we pick up between 3 to 5 inches of rain, a couple of hot spots picking up between 5 to 8 inches of rain, those stormwater channels will overflow their banks. And if that happens, we could be talking about some significant life-threatening flash flooding. There's the San Gabriel Mountains, as we just mentioned before. Friends and family, even in places like beautiful Malibu, need to be on the lookout for this. We don't see this type of rain all that often in LA. In fact, interestingly enough, when you look at the monthly total of how much rain we typically see in places like LA, it's really no better than a trace of rain in the month of August. So when you start looking in LA at 1 to 2 inches of rain, and then just north of LA, 2 to 3 inches of rain, and then up toward the hilltops, the San Gabriels, again, that's 3 to 5, perhaps even an isolated 5 to 8 inches of rain. This is This is record-setting rain that, again, could be lethal to folks that are out and about. All right, San Diego, if you're joining us from downtown, beautiful San Diego. As you know, the airport basically is right there, smack dab in the middle of the city. San Diego Bay, not too far from it. We're expecting about 1 to 2 inches of rain. The good news is I think that they have proper channels that can get a lot of that water out into the ocean. I think San Diego itself, we're doing generally okay compared to east of San Diego and east of the Santa Rosa Mountains. We're really on the other side as you crisscross some of the passes. It's going to be really on the windward side. This is the windward side. Let me circle it for you. Right here, the windward side of the mountains where we could see extreme flash flooding concerns. So let's get you right on in. Palm Springs, Coachella, the Salton Sea. These are areas, the San Bernardino Mountains. Look at that top. If you look really closely, there's a little indication of red. That red indicating 8 inches to a foot of rain possible. All of that rain, as we mentioned, just runs down that mountain. And that's the reason why, again, Death Valley is certainly contained in that zone for seeing some significant, perhaps life-threatening flash flooding. Bullhead, same sort of story for you. Vegas, by the way, you know, Las Vegas is not known for being a tropical rainforest, right? So when you look at Las Vegas and you see the fact that over the course of the next, say, 24 to 36 hours, we're talking about half a year's total of rain could be seen. That's significant. Look at Death Valley. We just highlighted that a second ago. When you look at that and compare Hilary's rain versus the yearly average, we're at 280%. Let me put that into layman's terms. That means 2 to 3 years worth of rain is possible with Hilary. That's a lot of rain, right? That's the type of rain that we got to watch out for. That can be dangerous and if not deadly. So as we continue to look at our exclusive Fox model product, we'll pick things up this evening. Here's where the center of circulation is expected to be around the 6 o'clock hour. And as we mentioned, one thing I do want to bring to your attention is that you'll see and experience a wind shift late this evening in San Diego where you'll start to experience an onshore flow. I got some good news for you. That onshore flow does not and will not lead to any storm surge. You hear that a lot when we talk about incoming tropical systems in Florida and along the east coast of the United States, where, again, it's a little bit more shallow. That's not going to be the case here, so storm surge is not going to be an issue, but nevertheless, you'll feel and experience that wind shift. LA, same sort of story for you. Catalina Islands, again, we're anticipating to see that wind shift, and as you know, I believe it was earlier today or late yesterday, we had folks just saying, listen, it's time to get off the islands just in preparation for Hilary. But by around midnight tonight and into early tomorrow morning, I think that most of the rain in SoCal toward the Salton Sea by 6 a.m. should begin to dissipate, but that all moves toward the north. So Las Vegas, Nevada, Reno, Nevada, and then points further north, even Boise, Idaho, getting in on the effects of Hilary. Interestingly enough, it is not just the Pacific where we're tracking a bunch of tropical activity with Hilary, right? We want to go ahead and take a quick peek into the Atlantic Ocean. We're less than a month away from the climatological peak of hurricane season in the Atlantic. Typically it peaks September the 10th and September the 11th. When we look at the Atlantic right now, it is 5 different systems, one of which just got named. This was Tropical Storm Emily. This was earlier today that got named. And Emily, thank goodness, is not going to be a threat to the United States, and it really shouldn't be a big threat to any other nation as well. We're talking about Bermuda, we're talking about the Bahamas, again, Puerto Rico, the Lesser Antilles. What we could see out of this is maybe some higher surf, maybe some higher rip currents from Bermuda, but again, Emily will become what we call a big fish storm. There's another area that actually has a potential to not only strengthen, but could become named. Franklin's our next name on the list. This is Invest 91L. It has about a...
Electrolyte, instant hydration.
The best thing is that I never really have to be the same, but I'm always me.
right here coming together quite nicely as we head toward, say, Monday. So this is going to be Central Time in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, all that energy spinning toward Corpus Christi, Brownsville, Texas. There we're talking about some pretty significant rain as we head through the early half of this week. This is going to be Monday and, of course, on Tuesday. So the next big question is, how much rain are we talking? Well, Corpus Christi down to Brownsville, that's about 2 to 3 inches of rain. A couple of pockets could actually pick up between 3 to 5 inches of rain. That's a lot, right? So that's going to be something that we're going to be keeping our eyes on over the course of the next 7 days. Now, the good news is that we do need the rain. Our drought monitor comes out every Thursday. And what you'll notice is there is that extreme level of drought in parts of the Lone Star State. From the capital of Austin, Texas to San Antonio, it's extreme to exceptional. So do we need the rain? Absolutely we need that rain. But if it comes too quickly in a short period of time, flooding is possible, and it's one of the reasons why Tuesday into Wednesday, as that system that we were just showing you, our Invest, moves on shore from Laredo up and down I-30 into San Antonio, we could be talking about that possibility for some flash flooding concerns. Let's focus in around Brownsville, Texas. Look at those temperatures. Oh my goodness, right? You typically fly into Brownsville, Texas if you're heading down toward South Padre Island. Temperatures nearly 100 degrees. And keep in mind that with that type of heat in play, we're talking about the warming of the Gulf of Mexico. And again, that's just fuel for the fire, if you will, when it comes to tropical systems. And it's one of the reasons why at least Tuesday through Friday, we have that opportunity in Brownsville, Texas, of seeing those showers and thunderstorms. Invest 90L, currently 45-mile-per-hour winds. Just to get you located at where we are, here's the island of Hispaniola. Here's where Puerto Rico is in the Lesser Antilles. This is just north of South America, not too far away from the ABC Islands. We need to watch this because this has a 90% chance of development, and some of our forecast models projecting that as this moves over Haiti and the Dominican Republic, this could actually strengthen into a named storm as we head into this upcoming work week. We'll have much more coverage as we look at San Diego County, California, right after this. are back now on Fox Weather. Of course, all eyes on Tropical Storm Hilary as of the 2 p.m. advisory. This was just furnished into us from our friends down at the National Hurricane Center. It has continued to weaken, winds down from 70 miles per hour as of the last 11 a.m. advisory, down to about 65 miles per hour as we speak. Still that forward movement generally toward the northwest at between 20 to 25 miles per hour. The barometric pressure is also increasing. What's interesting is that there's an inverse relationship. When you start to see the pressure start to increase, it means that there is a decrease in the level of intensity of our tropical storm, which is good news and is actually exactly what we've been forecasting. So Tropical Storm Hilary continuing to race up toward the north. It's about 125 to 150 miles or so just south of San Diego and the border between the United States and Mexico. We'll expect another advisory here at the 5 o'clock hour, but it did make landfall just before 2 o'clock this afternoon. And when Disney closed, so when Mickey and Minnie are hightailing it and they're hunkering down, that means you need to do the same. Check this out. Over the past couple of days, obviously we saw strengthening. Hilary was a powerful storm earlier this weekend with winds of 145 miles per hour at times. That was earlier, or I should say late last week. Through the weekend, we've continued to see that weakening take place. Those winds down to about 80 miles per hour as we speak, which is, again, good news, or I should say, down to 80 miles per hour at the 8 o'clock advisory, continuing to weaken. Currently a tropical storm, and again, the winds at 65 miles per hour. Typically, if those winds are at about 74 to 75 miles per hour, it'd be classified as a Category 1 storm. We are not expecting any more strengthening as of this point, which is great news. Let's talk about the wind field briefly, because the winds are going to be a significant issue, I think, moving forward, especially on top of what we call supersaturated soil. As we said, the rain shield out ahead of Hilary has been soaking the ground. We're going to show you how much rain has already fallen, and it's pretty impressive in spots. But when you start to factor in these winds that are wrapping around that center of circulation, that wind-driven rain on top of that saturated soil could easily bring down a couple of trees, a few of those trees landing on power lines, and that is a whole mess, right, when we start talking about people losing power. It's one of the reasons why, for the first time ever, the National Weather Service issuing tropical storm warnings for not only our nation's second largest city, but also the second largest city in California, that of course being San Diego. And you can see San Diego County right here, just seeing a deluge of rain. How much rain up so far? Parts of California picking up 2 inches of rain. Doesn't sound like a lot, but again, keep in mind that the soil there is not used to soaking in that type of rain. What I think is most interesting is the fact that Death Valley, California, and Death Valley Junction has already picked up 1.5 inches of rain. Death Valley, by the way, only averages about 1/100th of an inch of rain for the month of August. So when we're talking about 1.5 inches, it is significant. In one place that it has been raining all morning, all afternoon, and we're expecting it to rain all evening, is in San Diego, California. And Fox Weather's very own Craig Herrera is joining us there live. And Craig, you know, you have lots of experience. I know that you've worked for at least a half a decade, if not a little more than that, in San Diego.